Welcome to QLM Business News. Here are today's news stories. Councils in England to gain more control over bus services under new legislation. Local councils across England are set to receive new powers to control bus services, according to legislation being introduced to Parliament on Monday. The changes, announced by Transport Secretary Louise Haigh, aim to create a bus revolution that could protect essential routes and improve public transport options nationwide. Under the proposed legislation, all local authorities will be able to implement a franchising system, allowing them to determine routes, timetables, and fares. Private operators would then bid to run these services for a set fee. This move follows a successful example in London, where the franchising model has been in place since the 1980s, and more recently in Greater Manchester with its B network. However, the Conservative Party criticised the plan, labelling it unfunded and calling for an extension to the £2 fare cap they introduced while in power. Ms. Haigh responded by saying that the government is considering this issue and will make a decision during the October budget. Calls for better bus services and funding clarity. Campaigners and industry leaders have also weighed in on the new proposals. Sylvia Barrett, Director of Policy and Research at Campaign for Better Transport, welcomed the shift towards local control but stressed the need for a minimum service level guarantee and long-term, ring-fenced funding to ensure a reliable bus network for all. Local residents have expressed their concerns over current service levels. Sandra, from Macclesfield, shared her frustration with news reporters. The timings of the buses mean that to do a 45-minute evening class, it would take half a day. People won't be persuaded to use buses until there's a better service available. Historic changes in bus management. Since the 1980s, bus services outside London have largely been deregulated and run by private operators. Only a few local authorities retain ownership of bus companies. However, areas with metro mayors have been allowed to reintroduce public control through franchising. The new legislation aims to extend this option to every council in England, enabling them to establish public transport networks tailored to their community's needs. While many see this as a positive step, Labour councillor Adam Hugg warned that the changes would not provide an overnight fix. He emphasised that improvements would take time and would differ across the country. Funding and financial risks under scrutiny. The announcement raises questions about funding, with no clear indication of how these changes will be financed. Shadow Transport Secretary Helen Whatley called on the government to clarify whether local authorities would need to raise taxes or cut services to support the new model. She also questioned the impact on passengers, calling for an extension of the £2 fare cap. Transport Secretary Haigh stated that funding for the cap was under careful review, with decisions to be made during the budget. Meanwhile, Conservative peer Lord Moylan urged the government to commit to free travel for older and disabled passengers, but Rail Minister Lord Hendy could only express hope for the continuation of this scheme. The government has also launched a consultation to streamline the process for councils interested in bringing bus services back under public control. Additionally, a Better Buses Bill is expected to be introduced later this parliamentary session to outline further measures for local authorities. The extent to which councils will use these new powers remains uncertain. Mark Goldsmith, head of transport at Cheshire East Council, indicated that while the council may not operate buses directly, franchising agreements could offer some control over local services without assuming full responsibility. However, Graham Vidley, head of the Confederation of Passenger Transport, warned of the financial risks councils could face if passenger numbers do not meet expectations. With crucial decisions on funding and support expected in the upcoming budget, the future of England's bus network remains in the balance. This news story is brought to you by QLM Business News, your digital media channel. Visit qlmbusinessnews.com for more business news stories. Also follow us on Facebook, X, and YouTube. To help QLM Business News bring you more news stories like this, please like, share, and subscribe.